This is going to be one of the most important classes out of this entire training series because this involves the essential construction of your actual site. We're actually going to be building all of the pages of our site today, with the exception of the advertising product pages. The pages today that we're going to be creating are the pages that your website is going to depend on to bring in search traffic. So any content that you are adding onto these pages should be thoughtful content where you're actually trying to help the people that are landing on your website. You should identify certain ambitions or goals that they may have when they get to your site, certain types of information they might be trying to find out, and it should be your mission to try to deliver that. And when you can successfully accomplish that, the Amazon affiliate sales will simply happen on their own. People will love your site and appreciate your help, and some of them will be more than happy to get the products that they need through you to show that appreciation. Now, I actually have this site already built in terms of the pages that we're going to be learning about today. They're already created, and the reason why I went ahead and did this is so I can show you what you need to do and show you what the finished product is going to actually look like. So you're not just going to get instruction and seeing me doing stuff today, but you'll get to see what you should end up with when you are completely finished too. Now, there are a number of different kinds of pages we're going to be learning about creating today as well. There's actually 4 of them. One of them is going to be your home page. The other type of page is going to be category pages on your site. So these are going to be the pages that are essentially directly underneath your home page in terms of the structure of your website. So this is going to be a page like this one that you see here. And then we have the standard informational pages of our website. That would be each of these individual pages linked up from our category pages. Now, when I say category page, let me clarify really quickly. I'm not referring to category as it is used in the Fresh Store Builder system. Category, I mean as being a primary page of your site that organizes content all relating to a particular topic. So you essentially have the home page of your site, and then subpages of your home page are those category pages I'm talking about. And then subpages of the category pages will be your informational pages. And then finally, the last kind of page we're going to be talking about today is actually a page called a core page. These are pages that are built into Fresh Store Builder by default. And there's a variety of them for different types of purposes. Well, you can leave these core pages as they are, but you will simply end up with better results if you try to customize them in some way, form, or fashion. You can either be changing the content that exists there, or you could be adding in your own unique content. So with that said, you might initially think to begin on the homepage of your website. However, we're going to work a little backwards today, and I'll tell you why. If you look at my homepage, I have these different category pages linked up from it, and I'm using images for those category pages. Plus, I might even be talking about or kind of summarizing what is going to be on my entire website in the content of the homepage itself. Now, sure, you might have an idea of what your site will already be about, but if you go through and build all of the other pages of your site first, and then you write your homepage, you'll simply be a lot more knowledgeable on what your site contains. You'll easily be able to write 2 or 3 times as much content and use a wider variety of keyword phrases simply by going through that practice of writing the content for your informational pages. So with that said, we want to begin here on an informational page, and then we're going to work backwards to the category pages, and finally backwards again to the homepage of our site. So the category page, the informational pages on your site are going to be fairly basic. You don't have to get crazy with them. You're essentially looking to write an article about a single topic, but you want that article to be as in-depth as possible. I also prefer to try to find at least one image that I can use along with my informational article, simply to break up the entire page of text. If you notice, looking at my entire page here, if I didn't have this one image on my page, it would essentially be just a big page of text. So this helps to break it up a little bit and make it a little more appealing to my visitors. Now, when you're actually writing your informational content, before I get into showing you how this works, you need to be focusing on targeting a keyword phrase in each of the informational pages on your site. Now, you might have an occasional informational page where you're not targeting a keyword, and that is quite okay, helps your site to look a little more natural. But at least with most of the informational pages, there should be some kind of clear focus for that page. For example, on this page, ideas to decorate cake pops. I have decorate cake pops. I also have the phrase ideas in there because there are a lot of decorate cake pop ideas, keyword phrases. So I have a very clear direction on what this article is about. And I want to re-emphasize that point as I proceed through the article, but I also want to get into a lot of specific details. This helps me to actually get better search rankings because it gets me away from repeating my keyword phrases. For example, if I were to just keep repeating words like decorate cake pops or decorating cake pops, even though I might be changing up exactly how I am presenting this keyword phrase, I'm really not going to end up with a useful article or an article that ranks very well if I'm really only saying those things over and over and over again and just simply finding different ways to say them. So what you want to really be looking to do when you're writing out content for your site is get very, very specific. Find out what things are called if you're not sure. Maybe you're not familiar with the niche. Go and look at a video somewhere of somebody that really knows what they're talking about with this stuff. Listen to the jargon and the terminology and stuff that they're using. These kinds of things go a long way to help you get better search rankings because you're going to end up using all of these other relational phrases, what you would call semantic keywords, to where a word like decorate, other words like supplies or sprinkles or food coloring or fondant, these words, while they're not the word decorate, they certainly help to re-emphasize my main point here. So this is really, really important to understand when you're writing your own content. This is really where your search rankings are going to come from. Forget marketing, forget building backlinks, forget everything else. Just focus on high quality content that very thoroughly describes what your target keyword phrase is really all about. And that's how you get great search rankings. Then you're going to end up funneling your traffic from these informational pages to the money pages of your website. That's something that we'll end up covering later on in this series once we actually have all these pages on our site so we can connect them up together. For now, though, we simply want to focus on building these pages. Now I'm going to go in and edit this particular page just so you can see what I have done with the final page. And I want to walk you through all of the important aspects here so you can reproduce this same thing on your own site. Because there's a little bit more than what meets the eye in terms of what you were seeing on my live page. There's a little more going on behind the scenes, and that stuff is really important. It helps to re-emphasize all the work I'm doing to try to get better search rankings. Now, the first thing you want to do is to give your page a title. You should obviously have your target keyword phrase in mind. It could be something like what I am using here for my link title, decoration ideas. But it could also be a slightly longer version of that where it relates to what your entire website niche is about. For example, for me, my site is about cake pops. So my target phrase here might really be decoration ideas for cake pops or cake pop decoration ideas, for example. So generally, for my link title, a lot of times I will be looking to use what my target keyword phrase is. However, I do try to avoid being overly repetitive with certain phrases that I know will be commonly used throughout my website. One of those phrases is cake pops. Since basically everything on this site relates to a cake pop, it's going to be a term. Obviously, it exists in my domain name, and it's going to be at the top of all the pages of my site. So I want to use it kind of sparingly so I'm not viewed as trying to spam that keyword phrase. So a lot of times when I am setting up a link for these pages, if I have these repetition words that are going to be occurring over and over and over again, I will try to exclude them from my link titles. Another place where I will try to exclude those repetition keyword phrases is also in my page name. If I simply were to have taken the title of my page, Ideas to Decorate Cake Pops to Impress Your Friends, if I use that also for the link title, if I used it also for the meta title, and then maybe I let the page name get generated for me automatically, Cake Pops would be occurring in all of these different places, and it would end up being in my URL. So you can see how simply removing it in this one location helps to drastically reduce the overall usage of it. And this is going to make a major difference in the end. If you build an entire website and after a number of weeks or even a month or two, if you're not getting any search traffic whatsoever, go back to your website and look at your primary keyword phrases and ask yourself if you have gotten too repetitive with some of those most commonly occurring words in that phrase. Chances are that alone can end up being one of the biggest causes of not achieving the search rankings that you are looking to get. Now also notice that with my page title here, my target keyword phrase is not only being used. I've gotten much more elaborate with this keyword phrase. You want to be sure to be creative with your title, your meta title, and also your meta description. These three parts I consider to be some of the most important parts in terms of attracting people off of the search engine. And what I mean by attracting them off of the search engine is you can have a #1 search ranking for your target keyword phrase, but unless people actually want to click on your link in the search engine, you won't actually get traffic. You have to entice them to click on your search listing as well as getting ranked. So it's kind of a two-part process there. And by getting more creative with your title and your description there, you stand a much, much better chance of getting people to click on your link in the search engine. Now, on top of that, that engagement with your search listing over time can actually increase or decrease your search engine ranking. Another reason why that's really important. Google knows how many times they show your search result for a particular keyword phrase. And then they know how many times your result actually gets clicked. And so they can gauge which results are more popular than others. And the ones that are getting clicked more often, they will move up over time. Now, I'm not saying go to Google and click on your own. They know better than that. But naturally occurring clicks on your search listings will raise your search rankings. So it's kind of a snowball effect in a way. You craft these creative and enticing titles and descriptions, get people to click, and it helps to raise your ranking even more, which in turn can bring you even more clicks. Now, in addition to the things I've shown you already, the title, the link title, all the SEO components to the page, Everything beyond that really lies within these two boxes here. And I want to emphasize that you don't have to use both of these boxes. You can actually put all of your content into just one of them if you would like to. However, for simplicity's sake, a lot of times I will find myself breaking my content up for a page, especially if one section maybe has a lot more detail in it than another. For example, up here, I mostly just have basic text going on, with the exception of this image up top. Down at the bottom, though, I have more complicated text. I'm using all of these unordered lists that you can create by selecting an entire line, and then you click on the bubble, or if you want to order them and have them numbered, you use the ordered list here. So splitting your content apart into these two different boxes is completely up to you. But personally, I find it a little easier to do it that way. I know in WordPress, having a fairly in-depth page can actually get a little hard to manage after a while. So I like that you can kind of break this apart and simplify that for yourself. Now, I've already talked about what you should actually be aiming for when you are writing your content. If you want to look at some of my articles on my site for some additional examples of that, that's why that site is there for you guys. cakepopmolds.com/store is where you can access my demo site. In addition to what you're actually writing, though, I would highly encourage you to split apart your content. For example, I could have just as easily had just a plain article on this page where this little heading didn't exist, where I didn't have an image on the page, where I just had standard sentences down below here instead of trying to make it look a little more appealing looking. These different aspects help to make your page more readable. And on top of that, you end up emphasizing key points that are relational to what your page topic is really about. For example, by making this unordered list down here, all of these different decoration supplies end up being kind of the star of the show. They're at the beginning of each line of the unordered list, and I have them underlined. I could have also maybe had the text bolded instead of underlined. So as a result, Google sees this added importance on this content and these phrases, and since they are semantic to what your main page topic is about, this goes a long way to help you get better search rankings. And it makes your page simply easier to read, easier to digest for your site visitors. Now, when you're building your content, you have obviously these basic tools up here that you can use to style things. All you really have to do is select some text that you have and click on various things up at the top here to make, your bold headings and to also create your unordered lists and things like that. But there are a few additional features of this editor that may not be very obvious, at least to start with. You have this paragraph setting, and this actually allows you to create headings of various sizes. This is something that you can use for these headings as you go throughout your page. Generally, you want to start with a larger heading at the top, although I avoid H1 because usually your page is going to be your H1. So you might want to start with H2 or H3. You also have ways to change color, to set background colors, to change your font size up here. Another thing that you can do, though, is right-clicking. It has the standard browser right-clicking. You know, when you click over here and you get the usual, save as, select all, view page source type of right-click menu. When you're right-clicking actually inside of the content editor here, you get something completely different. Insert edit link, unlink, insert edit image, alignment, insert edit table. Now the insert edit image thing, this is something that you can use to put the images on your page, like what I have over here. However, you may notice by going through these different settings that the settings are more about how your image is going to look, how it's going to be displayed. You can get really, really complicated with images, even do things like changing the image when the mouse hovers over it. You can set up image maps and stuff like that. I'm not really looking to do all those more complicated things with the images on my informational pages typically, but it's really cool that all that stuff is available. However, the one downside that I can point out about this whole thing is there's no quick, easy way to just upload a new image. I could add an image off of the internet. I could just put in a URL right here and copy and paste. But ultimately, I can't directly upload an image of my own. And when I'm linking up to different images within the content of my pages, I really want those images to exist on my own website and not on a different domain name. So what I will do is go through Google or other sites that offer you images. Pixabay.com is one that's pretty cool to use because a lot of the images you can get at least in a lower quality for free and without having to even sign up for an account. That's Pixabay.com. But Google is also a potential source that you can use. If you just simply type in a keyword phrase relating to whatever it is that you're trying to search for, and then you click on the little images bar, you can obviously find a ton of different images. However, you do sometimes need to be a little careful about using copyrighted images, especially when you're dealing with more of an e-commerce industry where, it's probably some other business or small business, or it could even be a major corporation that, owns the rights to whatever it is that you want to use. Well, in a worst case scenario, if you do accidentally use an image that does turn out to be copyrighted, they will simply contact you and say, hey, this is a copyrighted image. Please remove it. Or maybe they'll ask you to provide a attribution link for them or something of that nature. You're usually going to get an opportunity to rectify that situation. A simple image online out of all the images that are out there and all the different people that are, taking images and sharing them around and stuff like that, trying to essentially prosecute somebody or recover damages or whatever for using an image in that manner. It's really just counterproductive. Companies would go broke if they were just constantly trying to sue people like that. So I'm not saying to blatantly go out there and just use copyrighted images. I'm just saying be careful. Worst case though, if you do make a mistake, it won't be the end of the world. You'll get an email, especially if you leave a way for you to be contacted from your website. You'll just simply get a message and they'll just ask you to remove it. You might even be able to just give them a link or something like that and retain the image in a lot of cases. So while you could simply browse through the Google images as they are seen here, what I would really recommend to do is to go up here to this little gear icon, click on Advanced Search. And all the way down here at the bottom where it says Usage Rights, I like to change this to generally this one or this one, because it talks about even commercially. If something shows up in this listing here for free to use or share even commercially, and it's not actually free to share or use commercially, and they try to contact me in that manner, ultimately, I'm not going to be held liable in a court of law, because you have to have malicious intent when you are violating legality, things of that nature. The company that has their image listed here as being marked as available for free use, even commercially, that company made a mistake in having their image listed that way, if that was the case. So you can fairly freely choose from the images that you find once you have adjusted that search there. So I could use some of these more professional looking images that have to do with my niche. Different characters people have made. This one's actually showing more of a process that you go through, at least one way that you could possibly coat the cake pops. So, you can usually, especially if you get a little more specific with what you're looking for, you can generally find these free images out there on Google for almost anything that you might be looking for. So when you find an image that you want, let's say I wanted to use this one, actually not a half bad image. You can get it directly from here on Google by right-clicking and going to Save Image As, and then saving it to your computer. However, look over here at the size of the image, and also ask yourself, how big do you really need the image to be on your own website? A lot of times this smaller version will be enough for you, and that might be okay. But if you need to go and view the full image to download it instead, click on the View Image button first and then reproduce this process. So now when you actually save this image to your computer, notice the file name that Google is automatically giving me. Some of these file names will make sense. and others will be complete gibberish or just a bunch of letters and numbers, like this particular one. You do not want to save the image as that exact file name. You want to rename the image to make it relate to what your topic is about or what this particular image is about. So you should either be naming it based on what the image actually is or having something to do with the target keyword phrase that you're going for on the page where this image will end up located on your site. So with that said, this particular image is the cartoon characters. I could be general about what I say here. I could say cartoon character cake pops. However, I could also get a little more specific with it. You know, you have characters here that are fairly well known. Hello Kitty, this would be Stitch, Mr. Potato Head, Mickey and Minnie, Winnie the Pooh, Big Bird, Elmo, Cookie Monster, Oscar the Grouch. I could use all those different words. Some of them I could use in this part here. I could maybe even say Disney or something like that if they all turned out to be relating to a certain brand name. Referencing words like that, when I, talking about the different character names, getting much more specific, that's really what I'm referring to when I'm talking about semantic words. If somebody searched for the term, say, cartoon character cake pops, I can guarantee you whatever page Google puts at #1 for that term, cartoon character cake pops, it's not a term I'm going to be trying to target on this site, at least not initially. But I guarantee you, go and search that term, and the #1 result, it's going to have the names of some actual cartoon characters on it. It's not just going to be talking about cake pops. It's going to be getting specific and using those semantic phrases. So remember these things when you're both writing your content, when you're titling your pages, when you're adding your images and stuff like that to your site, because these are the things all collectively that help to make a major difference with whether or not your page is actually going to rank in Google to the point where traffic actually sees it. So once you have your image for your particular page, you still need to get it actually on your site and in your page. As I mentioned before, there's no easy way to upload an image from Fresh Store Builder. There are some ways in the system that allow you to upload an image, like in the template options where you can replace the header logo image and some other relational images like that. You also have the brand manufacturer images. That would probably be the one location maybe where you could go in Fresh Store Builder to freely upload an image to a manufacturer and simply disable it from being shown, or maybe upload the image to a product. I believe you can also do that for individual products too. So you could maybe upload an image there, disable it from being shown on that product, and then reference that image here in the page. But personally, I kind of find that a little too complicated to deal with just to get an image in my page. So I will usually use FTP or the control panel. If you're using FTP, chances are you know how to transfer files back and forth. Download your images, load them all up to a specific subdirectory on your site. So all of your images will be in one place, and then we will be referencing those images in our page. I'll get to that part in just a second. But I wanted to show exactly how to upload an image for those of you that might not be as comfortable with getting files onto a website. If you watched the installation video that I created for you guys for FreshStore Builder, you remember we went to the control panel. So for me, this would be cakepopmolds.com/cpanel. This lands me here. And then we went to the file manager to upload the zip file for FreshStore Builder, and we extracted it, if you remember that part. Well, we want to do the same thing here for our images to get them on our site. So we click on File Manager. We're going to open up our site here. Then you want to make sure, depending on what you selected on that previous screen, simply make sure you're in public HTML. So this is going to be everything on your site that is publicly accessible. Then if you installed FreshStore Builder to a subdirectory, you want to make sure you go into that subdirectory first, because you want these images to be located within it. Now you can create a completely new folder directly here in the base of your FreshStore Builder directory. You can also use the images folder that is already there. You could load images directly here. Personally though, I would really recommend to make a subdirectory that you can just sort all of your images into. And you can even name this subdirectory something relational to what your niche is. For example, I did mine ideas and supplies. So while I'm not repeating any of the words cake pop molds, ideas and supplies are some of the relational phrases that I'm going after in this particular niche. So wherever you want to put your images at, when you're in the location where you want to create your directory, just go up to the top, click on New Folder, and simply type in the name. So for me, I did Ideas Supplies. You don't have to do 2 words. I could have just called this Supplies or even just Ideas if I had wanted to. And then you just click on Create New Folder. Now I obviously already have my folder, so I don't need to click on OK. I'm going to cancel mine out. Double click on the actual folder once it is created. If you're here and you don't see it right after you create it, just click on the reload button and that'll refresh everything. So then double click on your folder to get into it, and then we can go up here and upload the images that we downloaded. Now take note of the exact file name for your image. And I'm not just talking about the file name itself, but I'm talking about the ending of your file name as well. Some of them will say .jpg, some of them will say .png, some of them will say .gif. Others can actually be the same endings, but they might be capitalized, and others might not be capitalized. This is going to make a difference, or else your image will simply not display correctly on your site. So you need to make sure you have the exact file name to use for your reference. So now, once you have those images uploaded on your site, what you want to do is add it into your page now. You can click on right click within your content, click on Insert Edit Image, and then you just put the URL of your image here. Now you need the full URL. So we're going to type in http://cakepopmolds.com. My Fresh Store Builder site is installed in the store directory. I then went into the images directory, and finally I created a directory called info-supplies. So you need to make sure you get all the different subdirectories that are leading up to where your image location is going to be. This can sometimes be a little confusing to get it exactly right, but once you know where your image directory is located at, it'll be exactly the same every single time. So you can copy this beginning part, and then for each new image that you add in, you can just type it in onto the end of it. Now the other aspects that are here in this insert image screen, image description, title, things like the appearance, a lot of these things you can consider to be optional. However, I usually give it a title, and one of the other more important things that you will often need to worry about will be the alignment of it. You might want it to, like I've done, have it float to the right. So you might want to set a right alignment on it. Now, other times, your image might be too large for your page. If you insert your image and it's taking up an overwhelming amount of the room for your content to where it's just kind of squished in, or maybe it's taking up all of the horizontal space on your page, you can reduce the dimensions if you want to of your image. Another thing that you can do is down here where it says style, you can set your height and your width as a percentage. So I could do height 50% and width 50%. If you don't want to worry about the coding down here though, you can definitely just worry about the actual dimensions for it here. Look at whatever the dimensions are for your image, choose something that's smaller than that, punch those dimensions in here. Constrain proportions here will help to make sure that it's not skewing that image. And then you can get it to properly fit in with, you know, what your content and stuff is going to be. The advanced tab, for the most part, I don't think any of you guys are really going to need to worry about that unless you're looking to do something very, very specific. So once you have the URL punched in and your appearance, size, and alignment set, the title was the other thing that I had mentioned you want to worry about. For the title, just try to be descriptive about what the image is actually about. Don't try to spam a keyword phrase here. Make this more about the picture. For this one here, I might write something about, you know, stormtroopers or Star Wars. I might briefly mention, you know, the word cake pop, but my title will be more about stormtroopers and Star Wars because that's really what it is. It's still relational because, you know, obviously these are stormtrooper cake pops. So once you are done setting all this up, just click on the insert button and it will drop this image into your page content. Now, if you want your image to be up in the top right-hand corner like you see here, you usually will want to begin actually before all of your content. So I would have clicked right here before decorating, which is at the very, very beginning of my text content for this page. I would have clicked here to insert my image, put a right alignment on it, and then it flops over here to the right-hand side of my page and gives you what you see. Now, the reason why I'm working backwards with this whole process is because on my category pages, as you can see here, I have image icons that I'm using. And these images are the images that I'm using on those actual pages that I'm creating. So it becomes kind of difficult to create a listing of images and a listing of links to pages that essentially don't exist yet. So now we want to create our category pages after we have our informational pages created, because we're going to need all of those images from our informational pages to actually be able to set up our category pages. Plus, we need to actually have those pages in existence so we can link up to them. So the category page has a number of essential parts to it. We have our title, where we are targeting some kind of basic keyword phrase for our site, but it's also a keyword phrase that can be expanded upon more in terms of all of these other informational pages. We then have content for the page. Now, out of probably most of the pages that you'll be creating for your site, this one particular page, you may not need to put as much focus on creating unique content for the very top part of it here. I still would write a few sentences, a couple paragraphs worth of content at the very least. However, a lot of your content that you're going to have for this page will end up being down below in the sections for the individual pages. So I end up with a paragraph or so of content for each of these sections as well. And then all together, this content gives me an entire page. Well, depending on how many info pages you have, you can adjust the other amounts of content on that page accordingly. So with that said, I want to show you guys how these info pages or these category pages are created. Now, just like I was doing with the info page, I want to be much more descriptive with my title and also with my meta title. But I want to scale that back for my link title and also for my page name. So I end up with a short URL for my page name. This is important, I feel like, for these category pages because, this is a basis for all these other pages on your site. And so you want this page to be easy to remember or short to write down, perhaps. Now you also have your meta description, just like the informational pages. The same thing applies here. You want something descriptive that summarizes your page, but it also needs to be appealing to people because that's what's going to help you attract your search traffic. Now for the content of this category page. This is really the more, I guess, complicated part of this particular process. I like to put the basic text content up at the top here in the primary content. So this would be this couple paragraphs worth of content up top here. Everything else that I have on the page is going to be in the secondary content box. But notice when I scroll through this page here, it doesn't exactly look like it does here. That's because I have done some custom web design on this section to get it to actually look how it's looking over here. Now, to actually do this custom web design, you need to click on the HTML button down here where it says secondary content. This will open up an HTML editor screen where you can then put all of your coding to create this design. Now, I don't expect for any of you guys to actually be able to do all of this complicated coding and web design, or to even really understand how it all works. I know some of you will understand it, but for those of you that don't, it's quite okay. Don't worry about it whatsoever. I have a category page generator that is going to provide you with all of the coding that you're going to need for these category pages on your website. So I want to teach you how to use this generator now and how to then apply it to your category pages. First of all, I want to point out that these 4 boxes here that's asking for information on the category page generator, this allows you to generate the code for one informational page. So just one section right here, that's the coding that you will get when you use the category page generator. So with that said, I want to show you how to use this generator to then create your entire category page. So what you want to do to start with is have your information pages open. The ones that you have already created first. That's why we made them first. It makes this whole process of creating the category page much, much easier to do. So number 1, we have our information page open. This obviously would be something I would be doing with more than one page, but for now I'm just going to start with this one and show you exactly how this works. So first of all, we have a URL for this page, obviously. We need to copy the URL so we can reach this informational page. And we're going to paste that in as the link destination URL here in the category page generator. Now the other aspects we're going to need, we need an image URL, we need header text, and we need a description. So I want to go back to my page here, and this time around I want to get my image. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can click on View Image Info after right-clicking, and you can get the full address here. So you can simply copy this whole thing. You can also click on View Image, and it'll show you the entire image standalone in your browser, and you can copy the address from in the browser bar. Either one of these will work. You end up with the same address from doing this. So now we're going to take this and we're going to paste into the header image URL. Next up, we need header text. Now, we obviously have the actual title of this page. And this is something that you can use for your header text if you would like. However, there's 2 points to remember here. Number one, if you make your header text a little on the shorter side, you can ensure that they won't wrap onto a second line. As you can see right here, this one ends up dropping onto a second line. Some of these other ones do as well. The other part to remember is what I was talking about earlier with overusing your main words that are going to be commonly occurring on your website that are also important keyword phrases of yours. For my site, this would be words like cake pops. Now, even though I might have the word cake pop here in the title of this page, creative ideas for birthday cake pops for kids and adults, when I actually do this on my category page, since I'm going to be having multiple pages here, one after the next, I don't want all of these titles repeating those words. I don't want those repetition words in there. So I shorten this to say creative birthday ideas for kids and adults. Now also notice that mine are in all capital letters. You don't have to worry about doing that. So what I'm going to do here is just copy my text. I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to eliminate my repetition words from it. And that gives me my shortened version of my header text. Now finally, we have the description that we need. The description is actually going to be everything that you see here. However, you don't need the little read more section. What you want to do here is provide more unique content. I know it can be tempting to go over to your informational page and copy the first paragraph or two worth of text from here and drop it into your category page. While that would work, you would end up with a category page here with a lot of content on it that way. Everything with the exception of this top little piece would end up being duplicate content from other parts of your website. So this page itself would not really have a lot of search engine value to it. So that is why I find it better to simply create some unique content here instead. And look at what I've done here on this page. Look at the size of my images. Your final images, no matter how big they are, will end up getting reduced down to this width here. So your height is going to be a number of sentences long in terms of how much content you need to write to take up all of this vertical space. You want to at least get, to the bottom of the image if you can, just simply to make it look better. So now for mine, I can take this existing description that I have for this page, since this is my example, and I will plop it in right here for my description. So now when you have everything provided, click on the Generate button, and you're going to get all the code that you need. And at the bottom, you'll see the boxes, and they will be blank once again. This allows you to then go on to the next one and continue generating. But before you do that, you need to make sure you get your code from up here. Now there's two boxes here with code in it. You have your HTML and you have your CSS. Your HTML is what you will actually be adding into the page itself. So this box of the HTML, where I clicked on the HTML button here, you would then be pasting, let's pretend this whole box is blank. You would then be pasting your HTML right into the top of this box. So I'd take it like so, copy, and paste it in here. Now, when I come back and do this for additional info pages for this same category page, what I want to do is simply drop down below my existing HTML. So then, let's say I'm on my second info page now, I would just paste it in down below it, and then so on and so forth. The blank space in between does not matter. You actually don't need any blank space in between whatsoever, and once you save this and come back to it, it's going to wipe out that blank space that you've created. The point of adding in the blank space is just so you can visualize what's going on. You have one info page, you have two info pages, you have three info pages, so on and so forth. So you repeat this process until you get kind of like what you see down here, where you have a section here for each different info page that you want linked up. So this way, you don't have to actually have any knowledge of what the coding is really doing. You're just worrying about punching in the text and the link addresses and the image addresses to actually create this. Now, the other aspect to this is the CSS coding. However, we're not going to actually put the CSS coding in this individual page. The reason why is because this CSS coding does not change no matter how many times you use this category page generator. The only thing that's going to be changing each time you use it is this HTML coding. So the very first time you use this, you need to take this CSS code and add it into your site one time. And then every future time that you generate a category page, you only need to add the HTML into that category page. The CSS coding will take effect for all of your pages by just putting it into your site one time, as long as you put it in the correct place. And that's why we're not putting it on this individual page. What we actually want to do is to go to Tools and change parameters. If you remember in the previous class, I showed you this custom CSS page where you would be adding in scripts for things like Google Analytics. Down where it says custom CSS is where you're going to be adding in this code. Now, if you already have CSS coding here, you might want to just go down to the bottom of it, make sure you're on a blank line, and then paste in the new coding. Actually, I already have this coding in here, so it's just duplicating what's already at the bottom of it for me anyways. So paste in your code and save it. And then you never have to do that again for this one generator. However, I do have a second generator for you, and it's also going to give you CSS coding. So you will need to come back one time for that generator as well. But for all of the times you're generating code for your category pages for each of these informational pages, you only need to add this CSS in one time. So simply repeat this process now on this category page generator for all of the info pages that you want to show up on that one category page. And then you repeat the same process for the additional category pages that you have on your site. Now, the category pages, again, are really only going to be your informational pages on your site. I have 2 category pages here, even though it looks like I have 3. One of these, info and tutorials. Another one, special occasions, the one I was just showing you there. But then my third, what appears to be a category page here, it's not actually a category page. This is actually my all products page. If you remember when we were setting up our menu, we added the all products page as one of those menus, and then we simply renamed it. Well, that's what we're doing here on our home page for linking up to our all products page. So now, once you have your info pages created, and then you have your category pages created, then we can step backwards again to our home page finally, and we can put this page together. Now I want to point out the different sections of this home page. I have a number of different areas of content up at the top here. I also have more content farther down the page. I have this section where I'm linking up to the different category or main pages of my site. And this involves text links and image links as well. And then down at the bottom of the page, I also have this little product slider. Now, this whole page gets put together in a different manner than the category pages that we were just creating. I want to edit this page here so you can see what I'm talking about. For my title, I still use a descriptive title. For SEO and meta, I still use a descriptive title and a descriptive description here. However, for page name, there's not going to be anything because this is my home page. For the link title, I want this to be home unless I'm connecting this with maybe a WordPress site as well. And then it could vary what this home page of Fresh Store Builder actually is to your entire website. It could be your home page, or it might be just some kind of secondary page. Beyond that, though, the rest of my content here, I have a primary content and a secondary content. And I have these category links for the images here. This part is within my primary content on my site. However, you might notice that not everything on my homepage is actually here when I go and edit the home page. The reason for this is because the home page actually works on a widget system. If you go to Content and Widgets, you can reach this page that you see here. I'm not actually going to end up using manufacturer logos on my site. I haven't loaded up the manufacturer pages, something I'll end up talking about in a later class for you guys. These widgets, though, control how your home page is actually going to look. So I want to look at my home page here for a second, and then flip back over to the widgets so you can see what I'm talking about. If you hover over the different sections of content here on my home page, you won't be able to do this, but since I'm editing, my page and signed in as the administrator, I could click on one of these sections to actually edit them if I wanted to. Well, this section here up at the top is my primary content. This section right here is my secondary content. And then finally at the bottom, I have my product slider. Well, if I flip over to my widget page here, you can see I have main description, secondary description, product slider, and at the top I have page title. So that's even controlling where my page title gets shown up at. So I not only edit my information here into the primary content and the secondary content, but until I actually open up the widgets section and arrange widgets here, nothing's actually going to show up for my home page. So it's kind of a multi-step process to create your home page like this. Now, the reason why Freshstore Builder uses this kind of two-step process to make your home page is to allow you to make more complicated designs simply, but to not actually need the technical knowledge to pull that kind of thing off. So what you will want to do when you are creating your own home page, first find your home page, going to Content and View Pages. It'll be one of the core pages that's in the top section of that list. You want to edit that page so you can do the things like your title, your link title, your SEO information. And then you want to write some text content for the primary content and also for the secondary content. Personally, I went for more of a summary of my site for the primary content. And then I ended it with saying browse our site categories below or dive right into our selection of supplies on the left. Down below would be these things, and on the left would end up being my category links that are in the sidebar. Well, now in this bottom section, I chose to talk about products, to essentially pre-sell this product slider that's down here. So I've kind of given this a heading and a description. I even include a text link here that's going to my all products page, which is still the same page that I'm linking up to right here, but I'm just re-emphasizing my product pages on my site because ultimately that's where I need people to go to actually earn commissions on this website. So I'm re-emphasizing that link and again also kind of pre-selling this product slider. So you can try to copy the same approach there I would recommend more content than what you're seeing here on my page, though. Go for a couple hundred words worth of content in each of these two sections if you can, at the very least. One will summarize, the other one will help to lead into your product sales. Now, the part that actually controls this here, my special design on this homepage, this is something I'm covering in my homepage generator. So all you have to do here is use this homepage generator for each of the sections on this homepage. However many categories you want to link up to from your homepage is how many times you will run this generator here. So, for example, I have my category pages already linked up here in the menu. You remember we already set this up in the previous class. So I can easily jump to each of my category pages. These should be the pages that you're linking up to right down here. So I can go to them one at a time and easily get like the URL from them. That would be my link destination URL. My link text is going to be right here, what I actually want to call this box or have it labeled as. You don't want to go long on this though. I definitely would not want to use cake pop information and creation tutorials. So I shorten this as much as I possibly can while still leaving it meaningful. So I say info and tutorials for mine. Again, you don't have to worry about capitalizing here. This will actually capitalize for you automatically. Now the link hover text. Notice when I pause for a moment over the image or over the text, I will see essentially that longer version. So you could simply use your title from your category page if you would like to, and add that in here for your hover text. So this allows you to get more descriptive with it, to tell people a little more what it's about, maybe even including some keyword phrase in there, while still leaving it more easy to digest and shorter as far as the actual text that's being shown with these images. Finally, this last section just involves the image that is being shown. Now, what I recommend to do for these images is you can go out and find a completely new image, especially maybe if you're writing a lot of unique content for these category pages. You could even have an image up in the corner of the category page, just like you had done for your info pages. And you can use that image, or you can find a completely new image if you would like. Or the other alternative is to simply use an image from one of your info pages that you have on your site. So whatever that image ends up being, I believe for mine, I ended up selecting a completely new image to use for this category page. So I add in the URL for that. Just like I did with my info pages, I go to my file manager and I upload the image to my own website, and then I get my full URL for that particular image. Now for my image alt text, this is really more for the benefit of search engines. So you do want to be thinking keyword placement here. However, you don't just want to put the alt text as a keyword phrase and nothing else. You want to be descriptive. And on top of that, the alt text should actually relate to what your image is about. So for example, for the image on my homepage here, it's obviously cake pops. But instead of just saying cake pops, I want to describe the image. Think about it this way. What if a blind person is looking at your website? You might find that silly, but trust me, blind people use the internet. They're screen readers. They're not going to be able to see these images. So what they're going to hear instead is the alt text for your image. So you want to try to accurately describe that image for somebody that's not going to see it. That's what it really is for. Now, it could also be the case of maybe your image doesn't properly load up on the site for some reason. If you mistype the URL, if the connection just wasn't good and it didn't load for some reason, or maybe the person even has images disabled in their browser entirely. Very, very small percentage of the internet that does that, but it does happen. They would end up seeing the alt text instead of the image. So another reason to get descriptive with it. For me, I use the phrase chocolate-coated cake pops with pink sprinkles. Pretty accurate. But also still describes my niche and has some keyword placement within it as well. So I type that in here for my image alt text. And once I have everything provided for that category, then I click on the generate button. Now this time, for the home page generator, we still have the original boxes at the bottom, just like we did with the category page generator. So we could continue generating more code for the other categories that we want to link up to here. However, we have 4 boxes giving us code this time instead of just 1 like we had originally. First of all, I want to start with the CSS. We did this for the category page generator, where we copied it and we pasted it into our parameters in our site. But I mentioned we're only doing it 1 time for the entire site, no matter how many times we use the generator. Well, we want to do that same exact thing again for the homepage generator. And we're, again, only going to use it 1 time, no matter how many times we use the homepage generator. So you're adding CSS 1 time for your category page generator, and then 1 time for your homepage generator, and never again. So I want to take this CSS coding, and I go to Tools and change Parameters to get to the Custom CSS box here. And just like I did before, make sure you're on a blank line and just paste it in to the existing code, and then save your changes. Now once we have, let me close a few of these additional pages here. Once we have that CSS code added, we then have HTML code to add. However, there are actually 3 boxes of HTML coding here. One of them, up here at the top, is the box HTML. This is actually the HTML coding that creates this box right here. However, You need HTML coding that surrounds all of the boxes. So with that said, each time you use this generator, you're going to paste in this box of HTML coding. However, you want that HTML coding to go in between these two boxes of HTML coding. But these you're only going to use one time, and that's going to surround all of your other box HTML on the entire homepage. So let me show you what I mean here. You can do this in a couple different ways too. Let me take all of my HTML coding out of my homepage here. I want to show you what should be a easier way for you guys to actually accomplish this. Doing it this way, I have a summary of my site in the primary content. And then I have a summary of product information in my secondary content, along with a header. Now what I'm going to do is go to template and template options. From the template options tab right here, I want to scroll down and look for a option here that says Home Custom HTML Widget 1. And I'm going to click on it. In this widget here, I'm going to add all of the coding from my homepage generator. So to start with, I want to do the top container HTML. I'm going to go back to my generator or to my custom HTML widget here, and I'm going to paste in this code. Now I'm going to go back to my generator, and I'm going to copy my bottom container HTML. Now this I'm still going to paste in, but I want to make some space in between what I already added. So this is my top container HTML and my bottom container HTML. Everything that goes in between this HTML coding now will be your box HTML, and not just for this box, but for each of the sections that you have on your homepage. Of course, I wiped them out now, so I can't show them to you anymore. You remember, I had 3 here. Each of those 3 sections, for each one, we will go through the homepage generator and generate this code. But now, for each additional one, the only thing we're going to copy is this box HTML up here. And then we're going to add it in to the middle of this existing code. So I would repeat the same process to get my second set of code, and repeat it yet again for my product page to get my last set of code. Now this is just because for my site I have my product category, and then I have 2 other categories with informational content. The actual number of categories that you create on your site may be different than mine though. However, this design will look the best using multiples of 3, because 3 of these are going to fit across the page. So now you can see, I did that wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Do not paste that code in to this right here. This is actually the visual editor. You want to click on the HTML source editor, and everything would be pasted in here. So this is my top container HTML. This is my bottom container HTML. And then right here, I have my box HTML from the 3 different categories that I would do. So I would use this homepage generator 3 times, copy this code out of the top here, and that's the code for these 3 sections here. And again, that all goes in between the other HTML coding, which is found here. So your top and your bottom. This surrounds all of your boxes. Now we can save this in, and there we go, looks correct. So we save this option as our HTML widget number 1. Now what we can do is go back to our widgets. We have our page title, we have our main description, secondary description, and our product slider. Now all we need to do is add in a new widget, and this is going to be custom HTML1. Remember, there was another one, there was a custom HTML2 also. So you can set up more than one, piece of information like this to completely customize your homepage. You also have other options. Besides the product slider, you could use bestsellers or special offers or random products or manufacturer logos if you set up the manufacturer pages and images. So for here, I'm doing custom HTML1. I'm adding this to the top full row, and I want this one to be showing up right below my main description. So if you set this up just like I've done, you should have page title, main description, custom HTML1, secondary description, and then your product slider. Finally, we can go back to our live page and view it in action. So we're going to see our H1 title, our primary content, our custom HTML1, our secondary content, and finally the product slider. So going through all these pages now, you would have a fairly complete website. The only thing left to really do is to create all of the product pages for your site. However, there are some other pages that already exist in this system. If you go to content and view pages, or if you also, another alternative is to view your sitemap. You can see all of the different core pages that are in this system. Well, some of these core pages you will end up wanting to edit as well. At least take a look at each of them, see how they look, see if there's any content there that doesn't belong, or see if you need to be adding content to any of those pages. Now, there are also some of these pages that we will end up not utilizing, and a little later on we'll go through and we'll tidy all this up and wipe out some of these pages that we're not going to use. For example, I'm not going to end up using our newsletter page on this site. So it's not important for me to go through and to customize it because I have no intentions on end up using it, and I'm going to end up removing it from the public website. So look through these core pages, maybe even look through the sitemap and look at all the different pages that are available